She told me to pick her up late because she had a mandatory staff meeting. Said the hospital was auditing patient records and all the nurses were stuck reviewing charts. That's why I was in the parking lot of St. Luke's Medical Center at 9:43 p.m. on a Wednesday, sipping cold gas station coffee, with the radio playing soft jazz because the AUX cable was busted. I didn't question it. Why would I? 17 years of loyalty makes a man stupidly confident. You build this picture of someone, and eventually you stop checking if it still matches the reality. I'd even brought her a cinnamon twist from that little Mexican bakery she liked, thinking I'd earned some brownie points. When 10:15 rolled around and she still wasn't answering texts, I got out of the truck. Not angry, not yet, just tired. I walked inside and told the front desk nurse I was here for my wife. She gave me a weird look, said the shift change had already happened, said there was no meeting. I remember blinking slowly like I'd misheard her, asking again, explaining which department my wife worked in. The nurse checked a clipboard, then her computer, then looked at me with this awkward sympathy that made my stomach drop. She told me Melissa clocked out at 7:52, said she'd left in a hurry. I walked back to the truck like I was moving underwater. The coffee cup fell from my hand and rolled under the tire. I didn't care. I got in, shut the door, and just sat there, silent, numb. Then I did something I've never done in our entire marriage. I tracked her phone. She made me install the Find My app years ago because she'd get anxious when I was working late or stuck on long HVAC jobs in bad neighborhoods. She said it was for emergencies. I told her I didn't need to track her, and she laughed and said that was cute. I never thought I'd use it, but I did. That night, for the first time, her phone wasn't at the hospital, wasn't even near it. It was in a residential neighborhood on the south side, 20 minutes from where she was supposed to be, a street I'd never been to. I stared at the blinking blue dot. It wasn't moving. I didn't think. I drove. The closer I got, the more something primal woke up in me. Not rage. Not yet. It was something uglier. A slow, tightening screw in the chest. A sick, metallic taste in the mouth. I didn't know what I was going to do when I got there. I didn't even know what there was. But I kept driving. The house was average. Red brick. Cheap porch lights. One of those solar garden gnomes out front. But what hit me wasn't the house. It was the car. Parked in the driveway. Our car. The Honda we bought last year with the leather seats she begged for. Her gym bag was still in the back. I didn't park. I just killed. I didn't watch the full clip. Couldn't. I saw enough to know that Melissa hadn't just let another man into our home. She'd let him into our bed, our space, our private life. The same room where we'd spent countless nights planning vacations, laughing, arguing over dumb things like laundry or dinner plans. That room was now tainted. I closed the app, sat in silence, and for a solid minute, I genuinely forgot how to breathe. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I tested her. I acted normal. I asked how work was, and she launched into some half-baked story about how the ER was understaffed and she was on her feet for 12 hours. It was almost poetic how easily the lies rolled off her tongue. She even rubbed her neck and groaned like she was sore from the non-existent shift. I asked if she wanted a foot rub. She smiled, like nothing was wrong. The next morning I left for work early, but I didn't go to work. I parked around the corner, turned off the engine, and waited. Just before noon, a silver BMW pulled up. I didn't recognize the guy, but I'll never forget his smug walk up to my front door. He didn't even knock. He used a key. My key. Or rather, a copy of it. I waited until he was inside. 5 minutes. 10. I walked up to the door like I'd just forgotten my wallet. Opened it. The smell of pancakes hit me first. Pancakes. She never made pancakes for me. I walked in, called her name. She came out of the kitchen in an oversized t-shirt, mine. Ironically. Her face dropped when she saw me, but only for a second. Then she turned stone cold. "What are you doing here?" she asked. No fear, no apology, just cold, sharp irritation, like I'd interrupted her while she was rearranging the furniture or something. That's when he stepped out from behind her, shirtless, holding a cup of coffee like this was his house now. He didn't say anything, just looked at me with this infuriatingly calm expression. I didn't shout. I didn't swing. I just said, "Who is this?" Melissa crossed her arms. "You're being dramatic." "Who is This. She sighed, like I was exhausting her. His name's Trey, and he's none of your business. Trey. Even his name sounded like something scraped off the bottom of a yacht shoe. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. She gave me nothing. No explanation. No regret. Just a smug, rehearsed shrug. Things haven't been great between us, Jake. You know that. No, I don't know that. I snapped. You could have said something. You could have talked to me. Talked to you. She laughed. All you do is fix air conditioners and obsess over loyalty like it's some noble trait. Grow up. I didn't even feel the floor under me anymore. Her words hit like ice water. Not because of what she said, but how little she seemed to care. Then Trey, the side character in this crumbling drama, finally spoke. Maybe you should go, man. This is between you two. I turned to him slowly. You're in my house, using my key, drinking my coffee. Melissa rolled her eyes. You're making this harder than it has to be. I didn't respond. I walked out, quiet, numb. But inside me, something had started to shift. Not grief, not confusion. Strategy. I didn't go far. Just to my truck. I sat there, engine off, parked 2 houses down with the window cracked open. I watched my own front door like a stranger. For a long time, nothing happened. But then, through the side mirror, I saw it. Trey stepping out about 40 minutes later, buttoning his shirt, sunglasses on like he'd just finished brunch. Not betrayal. He walked to his car with zero urgency. Melissa didn't follow him out. She didn't peek through the window. She didn't call after him. That told me everything. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't new. It was rehearsed. Routine. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about disrespect. Disdain even. She didn't love him. She didn't even seem to like him. But she liked what he represented: control, secrecy, leverage. She had made our marriage into a private game, and I'd been losing for who knows how long without even knowing I was a player. I spent the rest of the day not at work, but at a coffee shop with a notebook and pen. I wrote down every odd moment from the past year. The double shifts. The last-minute girls' weekends with no photos. Her sudden interest in fitness after 15 years of hating the gym. New lingerie I never saw her wear at home. A locked drawer in her closet I once joked about and she snapped at me like I tried to read her diary. And something else, her friend Hannah. I always thought something was off there. Melissa would go out with her, but they never posted pictures together. And once, I ran into Hannah at a grocery store while Melissa was supposedly with her. And she acted confused. Said she thought Melissa was out of town with family. I decided to call Hannah. She didn't answer. But 20 minutes later, Melissa texted me for the first time since I'd left the house. Don't drag other people into this. Handle it like an adult. That confirmed it. Hannah knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. Melissa was already trying to control the narrative before it even began. I didn't reply. I went back home that evening after I knew she'd be on her night shift, this time actually scheduled at the hospital. I changed the locks. Tossed Trey's spare key on the front step in a Ziploc bag like evidence at a crime scene. I didn't touch any of her stuff, didn't break anything, didn't go petty. I just reclaimed my space. Then I went into our bedroom and turned on the fan camera again. Rewatched the clip. This time I made myself get through all 10 minutes. Every laugh, every whispered nothing, every shameless grin on her face. I burned it into memory, not because I wanted to punish myself, but because I needed to feel everything. I didn't want numbness. I wanted clarity. The clip ended with her lying back on the bed, staring at the ceiling like she didn't have a husband, like she wasn't burning down 17 years with every breath. And then she said something I hadn't caught the first time. She looked at Trey and said, "He's so oblivious. He actually thanked me for working extra this week." I almost felt bad. Almost. That word ripped through me more than anything else. Not sorry. Not guilty. Just almost. That night I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I wrote down a plan. The game she thought she was playing? It was about to change. The next morning I called a lawyer. Not because I wanted a divorce yet, but because I needed to know what my options were. I wasn't going to swing blindly. I wanted every move I made from this point on to be calculated, undeniable, and above all, sharp. No yelling. No messy social media rants. Just precision. Let her think I was broken. Let her assume she still had control. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Denise with eyes like polished steel, didn't sugarcoat a thing. If you've got footage, texts, and witnesses, you've already won half the battle, she said. But don't move too fast. Let her keep thinking everything's fine. The quieter you are, the more careless she'll be. And she was right. Over the next few days, Melissa acted like nothing had happened. No apology. No explanation. She moved through the house like a tenant with no lease. Just enough presence to keep the lights on but zero effort beyond that. She didn't even ask where her spare key went. Just assumed she lost it. She still cooked herself breakfast. Still left wet towels on the bed. Still scrolled through her phone with that half-smile like she was holding in secrets. I started documenting everything. Receipts. Timelines. Days she said she was working versus her actual schedule. Every moment she left the room to take a call. And every time she came back looking slightly too pleased with herself. Then, a week later, I got the break I didn't expect. She left her laptop open on the dining room table. Normally she was paranoid about locking it, but this time she must have been in a rush. And curiosity isn't always about weakness. Sometimes it's about strategy. So I sat down, opened her browser history, and there it was. A private Google Calendar under a different Gmail address. But it was synced. The entries were coded with phrases like T, Meetup F6, and Red Room 2P. But the timestamps matched the exact days she claimed to be working late or with Hannah. I screenshotted everything. Then I looked further. She'd bookmarked an article titled, How to Keep a Double Life Without Getting Caught. She wasn't hiding an affair. She was building a second identity. I didn't explode. I didn't confront her. Instead, I did something small but deliberate. I changed the Wi-Fi name to Ask Melissa About Trey. She saw it that night. Her reaction was slow. She squinted at her phone, then walked over to the router like it might explain itself. She stood there for a full minute. Then she turned to me on the couch and said, Is this supposed to be funny? I didn't even look up. Just trying to stay connected. She scowled. Grow up. But I saw it, a flicker. Not of guilt. Of fear. That night, she packed a bag. Told me she was going to stay at Hannah's for a few days, until we cool off. She didn't know I'd already contacted Hannah. And Hannah, pushed just enough with the right questions, cracked. Said Melissa had never stayed over. Not once. Said she didn't even like Trey but was too afraid to say anything. Said Melissa was in deep with someone she couldn't shake. So when Melissa walked out with her suitcase, I watched her leave with something close to relief. She was no longer playing a game behind my back. She was playing it in front of me, and I had just started flipping the board. The silence in the house after she left was almost surgical. Clean. Empty but not hollow. It was like breathing in after a storm when everything's been ripped away, and there's nothing left but the sound of your own pulse in your ears. I didn't miss her. Not even a little. What I felt was a strange mixture of clarity and ignition. For the first time in months, maybe years, I had my mind back. My space. No false smiles. No fake phone calls from the hospital. No Trey's cologne haunting the hallways. And that's when I did something that I'm not exactly proud of, but I don't regret it, either. I called Trey. I'd pulled his number from Melissa's contact list before she changed her phone password. I waited until after midnight, when I was sure he wouldn't be surrounded by whatever fake life she was helping him build. He answered on the second ring. Yeah. I didn't even say hello. Just curious, Trey. Did she tell you we were separated? Or are you just that comfortable ruining someone else's marriage? Silence. Then, who is this? Jake. Husband. You know, the guy paying the mortgage on the house you've been parading around in. He had the audacity to chuckle. Man, if your marriage was that solid, I wouldn't be in it. And if your spine was real, you'd have knocked on the door instead of sneaking in through lies and locked drawers. He went quiet again. Then, she told me you guys were done. Living separate lives. I exhaled. Did she also tell you the car she drives is registered in my name? That she's been using our joint account to book hotels for your little red room afternoons? Or that I have it all backed up? He was quiet, but not stunned. Not defensive either. Just calculating. She didn't tell you that, huh? She said you'd get dramatic, he muttered. Not dramatic. Just precise. Then I hung up. I didn't expect a response, but I got one 20 minutes later. A text. You should know she's not loyal to anyone. Thought you'd figure that out by now. That hit differently. Not because it excused anything, but because it confirmed something I'd suspected deep down. Trey wasn't in love with her. He wasn't even protecting her. He was just the latest dumb ego she'd been feeding lies to. Placeholder. A mirror. And now the mirror was cracking. 2 days later, she came back. Not with guilt. Not even pretending to make peace. She walked in like the whole thing was an inconvenience. She dropped her bag at the door. Didn't even take off her sunglasses. I need to grab some things, she said, not looking at me. I nodded toward the hall. Make it quick. You've got 20 minutes. That froze her. Excuse me? You heard me. Your stuff's been boxed. Closets cleared. I changed the locks while you were busy playing house. She scoffed. This is my house too, Jake. No, I said calmly. This house belonged to the version of you that used to respect me. That woman doesn't exist anymore. She stepped closer, eyes narrowed. You're not going to make this easy for me, are you? I'm not going to make anything for you, I replied. You broke something you don't get to touch again. Her tone changed then. Cold gave way to mockery. You think you're going to come out of this looking like the hero? You think people care about your little sob story? I don't need to be the hero, I said. I just need you gone. And then she did something unexpected. She laughed. Actually laughed. Like it was all some big joke. Fine, she said, picking up one of the boxes. You want me gone? You got it. But don't come crying when you realize you were the boring part of our marriage. I walked her to the door, opened it and held it there. I wasn't the boring one, I said. I was the one who stayed. She walked out. No apology. No tears. Just a smug smile and silence. And for the first time since the day that fan clicked on, I finally understood what peace looked like. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. The door clicked shut behind her, and I stood there for a moment. Hands still on the knob, heart steady for the first time in weeks. That was it. No explosions. No grand apology. No sudden redemption arc. Just a box of her things, a cruel smile, and a woman who thought she could walk through fire and not get burned. But I wasn't putting out any more fires for her. I was lighting my own. I waited until the weekend. Melissa was fully out now, as far as I could tell. Her name was still technically on the lease, but she hadn't stayed a night since the box drop incident. Trey hadn't shown up again either. I suspected she was keeping her distance, thinking I'd cool off, maybe even open a conversation. But she didn't realize she'd stepped out of the frame completely. She wasn't part of the picture anymore. I had already started repainting everything. So Saturday morning, I hosted a small get-together. Just 5 people, close friends, people who knew both of us, people who deserved to know the truth before Melissa spun her version of it. I laid everything out. The footage, the calendar, the messages, even the Wi-Fi stunt. I didn't make myself a victim. I just told them what happened. What surprised me most wasn't the support. It was the relief. They'd seen the cracks, they said. The way she dismissed me in public. How she rolled her eyes when I spoke. How she acted like the marriage was a cage instead of a choice. No one had wanted to say it while we were together. But now the silence was broken. And then came Hannah. I didn't invite her. She showed up the next day, unannounced. I opened the door and saw her standing there, nervously holding a takeout bag like that somehow made up for everything. I brought that Thai place you like, she said quietly. Can I come in? I almost said no. But then I thought, no, let her talk. Let her see what honesty actually looks like when it's standing in the wreckage someone else caused. She sat at the table. I didn't touch the food. I didn't know the full story, she said. I swear. I thought she was just blowing off steam. I didn't think it was serious. She gave Trey a key to our house, I said flatly. Hannah flinched. She told me you were traveling a lot for work, that you barely talked anymore. I didn't answer. The lie had already done its work. What mattered now was what she'd do with the truth. She's spiraling, Hannah said. She thinks you're trying to ruin her reputation. I'm not, I said. I don't need to ruin anything. I just let her actions speak. She looked at me for a long time. You're not who she said you were. I raised an eyebrow. Who did she say I was? Dull. Obsessed with control. Emotionally cold. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. Interesting. She gave that speech after sneaking around and faking her work schedule? Hannah nodded slowly, defeated. I didn't come here to defend her. I came here because I should have said something sooner. That's fair, I said. And now you've said it. So we're done. I didn't mean it cruelly, just truthfully. I wasn't angry at Hannah, but she, like Melissa, had made a choice. And now the lines were clean. Later that night, I went into what used to be our bedroom, now stripped of her perfume, her clothes, her noise, and took down the ceiling fan. Not because I was ashamed of what it showed me, but because I didn't need surveillance anymore. I had the truth. And the next part of this wasn't about catching her. It was about moving forward, louder, clearer, and without looking back. The days that followed were eerily smooth, like the silence after a courtroom verdict. No more guessing. No more pretending. I wasn't waking up wondering where she was, or who she was texting in the bathroom at midnight. I wasn't walking on eggshells waiting for the next offhand insult wrapped in a joke. I was free. But freedom has a funny way of feeling like floating when you've spent years carrying someone else's weight. It's not always joy at first. It's space. Unfamiliar, sharp-edged space that reminds you how small you made yourself to fit into a box someone else built. I started cleaning out the house room by room. I found pieces of her everywhere. Notes scribbled on receipts. A playlist on our shared Spotify account called Drive to Trey's Black Heart that she must have made without realizing it was public. Expired perfume samples in drawers. Receipts for hotel rooms under a different last name. His last name. She had been testing it out. I didn't know whether to laugh or be sick, so I kept moving. In the back of our closet was a locked wooden box. I remembered it vaguely, some keepsake thing from her college days. I never cared to open it. But now, everything about her felt like a puzzle I needed to finish, just to shove the picture off the table when I was done. I pried it open. Inside were photos. None of Trey. These were older. Pre-marriage. Guys I didn't recognize, candid pictures, some Polaroids, some developed prints with hearts drawn on them. Notes in the margins. He cried after I left. So soft. Another said I was the one. Idiot. It wasn't a memory box. It was a trophy case. And suddenly it all clicked. Trey wasn't a mistake. He wasn't a moment of weakness. He was a continuation of a pattern I never saw because I never thought to look. Melissa didn't cheat for escape or passion or connection. She did it for power. I put the photos back. Locked the box. Didn't throw it away. Let her come looking for it someday and see it missing. Let her wonder. That night she called. First time since she left. I didn't answer. She tried again. I let it ring. On the third attempt, I picked up and stayed silent. Jake, she said. I said nothing. I don't know what you've told people. But I hung up. 15 seconds later, a text. You're being childish. We're both adults. Let's talk this out. No, I wasn't talking anything out. I was setting the final pieces in motion. 2 days later, I filed for divorce. With full evidence. Clean, undeniable, and time to hit her like the morning news. She was served at her workplace. I didn't see it, but Denise told me she turned ghost white and tried to act confused. Then angry, then embarrassed. The full cocktail of a person whose mask had finally cracked in public. And still, I felt no triumph. Just completion. Like the door had finally closed behind me, not with a slam, but a seal. That night, I made dinner for myself. Just me. Steak, roasted potatoes, 1 beer. No background noise. No false company. Just my plate, my space, my calm. And somewhere out there, Melissa was probably rewriting the script in her head, figuring out how she'd tell the next guy her ex was emotionally unavailable and couldn't handle her independence. Let her. I wasn't interested in editing her story. I was too busy writing mine. Melissa didn't go quietly. I never expected her to. A week after she was served, she started posting cryptic messages online. Not outright lies, she was smarter than that, but slippery half-truths designed to bait sympathy. Phrases like, not everything is black and white, and you never really know who someone is until they leave you bleeding. Her favorite was, loyalty only works when it's mutual. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, but people started reaching out. Old friends, mutual acquaintances, even her cousin. One by one, they came with questions, hesitant, cautious, like they weren't sure which version of the story they were walking into. And I gave them all the same answer. I don't need to defend myself. Just check the facts. Then I'd send them one screenshot. The calendar. The hotel receipts. Her voice in the fan recording saying, "He thanked me for working extra." I almost felt bad. Every time they went silent. Every time they understood. But Melissa, she doubled down. She showed up at my house one evening, unannounced. I saw her through the window, standing by the porch light like a shadow waiting to be invited in. I didn't open the door right away. I wanted her to feel the weight of having to knock on a door that used to open for her without question. She didn't knock. She banged. When I finally opened it, she was standing there in a hoodie, arms crossed, face stiff like she was trying to keep control of a story that was slipping through her fingers. "This is how it's going to be," she said. I didn't answer. "You're trying to ruin me, Jake." Still silent. "I made a mistake." "No," I said calmly. "You made a series of choices. Calculated ones. Repeated ones. Mistakes happen once. You built a second life." Her jaw clenched. "You don't get to define the narrative." "I don't have to," I said. "The truth's doing just fine without me." She stepped forward. "I gave you 17 years. "No," I said again. "You gave me 17 years of who you pretended to be. And I gave you the benefit of the doubt for every lie that followed." She stared at me then, something flickering in her eyes. Not sadness. Not regret. Panic. Because the game was over and I wasn't playing anymore. "You'll be alone," she said quietly. "Maybe," I said. "But I won't be ashamed." That hit her. Harder than anything else I'd said. Because Melissa thrived on appearances, on being admired. And now her armor was gone. The version of herself she tried to sell was crumbling in front of her, piece by piece. She turned without another word and walked off into the night, head held high but pace just a little too fast to pass for confidence. I closed the door. This time it stayed closed. Later that night I got one more text. "I hope you're happy now." I didn't reply. I deleted her number. Because happiness wasn't a switch I needed her permission to flip. It was something I was finally learning to define on my own. The following weeks moved differently. Not faster, not slower, just with a strange sort of weightlessness, like the ground had shifted but I'd finally found balance. The divorce process had started moving through its legal choreography, and thanks to the mountain of evidence, the judge was already leaning in my favor. But Melissa, she wasn't done. It started with little things. Bank notifications showing small purchases I hadn't made. Subscriptions, digital services, one of them even a dating app under our joint card that she hadn't yet updated. I froze the account. She sent a cold, clipped email with the subject line, "Seriously." No greeting, no signature, just a single sentence. "You're embarrassing yourself." I forwarded it to Denise, my lawyer. She replied with, "Let her keep talking. Every word helps." Then came the real twist. One afternoon, I got a message request on Facebook from someone named Cassandra. The name meant nothing to me, but the profile picture, her I recognized. Barely. Blonde, mid-30s. A face that looked polished but tired in the eyes. The message was short. "We should talk. About Melissa. Please." I hesitated. Everything in me said to ignore it. But I didn't. Maybe out of curiosity. Maybe because I had already walked through fire and figured one more ember couldn't burn worse than the rest. I replied. Cassandra turned out to be Trey's ex. Or more accurately, Trey's wife. They had been separated, apparently. Not divorced. Not officially. Melissa knew. Of course she knew. Cassandra sent screenshots. Melissa texting Trey things like, "Once the paperwork's done, we can finally stop pretending, and she'll move on. She's boring." We're not. Cassandra was calm. Not angry at me. Not fishing for drama. She just wanted confirmation of what she'd already pieced together. And I gave it to her. In return, she gave me something I hadn't expected. "Melissa did this to someone else before you," she said. "Not with Trey. With another guy years ago. Same pattern. Same lies. I tried warning her last boyfriend. He didn't listen. I thanked her and we left it there. Two strangers, connected by the same hurricane, standing on opposite shores of the wreckage. But now the picture was complete. Melissa wasn't a woman who slipped. She was a woman who hunted. She curated people. She built facades. She didn't fall into betrayal. She planned it, shaped it, weaponized it. And I'd been her longest project. But now I was done being her canvas. I spent that weekend boxing the last remnants of her from the house. Letters, trinkets, that old college hoodie she used to sleep in. I didn't burn anything. I didn't break it. I just packed it, sealed it, and dropped it at a storage unit under her name with one note inside. This version of you doesn't live here anymore. Then I changed the locks again. This time, not because I feared she'd come back, but because I knew she wanted to. Not to fix things, to regain control. And I wasn't letting her have it. It didn't end with a bang. No courtroom scene, no dramatic outburst, no teary last-minute confession. The final chapter came in the form of a single white envelope dropped into my mailbox on a Thursday morning. One line of print across the front. Final decree of divorce. I stood there for a moment, envelope in hand, just still. It was light, almost too light for the weight it carried. 17 years of life, of routine, of shared holiday dinners and lazy Sunday afternoons. Folded, inked, and authorized by a judge who would never know the sound of her voice when she lied or the exact way she blinked when she was caught. But I knew, and now it was finished. That evening, I sat on the back porch with a drink. Nothing fancy, just something cold and honest. The dogs were quiet. The air had that golden, late spring glow to it, and the house, my house, felt still in a way I'd never experienced. Not empty, not hollow. True. And that's when the strangest thing happened. I smiled. Not because I was happy it ended. Not because I had won. But because I'd made it through. Not everyone does. Some people stay stuck in the loop, convincing themselves it's just a rough patch, just a phase, just stress. I almost did. I came so close. But then a simple fan turned on. That fan, God, I'll never look at one the same again. It was supposed to be a gift. A thoughtful upgrade to make her life easier. And it became the camera that pulled the curtain back on everything. People talk about divine timing or fate. Honestly, I think it was just technology doing what hearts refused to. After the dust settled, people started asking what I'd learned. If I'd do it all over again. If I regretted those years with her. I don't. You can't regret what you didn't know. You can only regret what you ignored. And once I knew, really knew, I never looked away again. Here's what I'd tell anyone in my position. Don't chase the why. You'll never get it. Some people lie because it gives them air. Some people betray because they're empty, and feeding off your loyalty is the only thing that makes them feel full. Trust your gut. When something's off, it's off. You don't need evidence to have a feeling. You need evidence to act. But never let someone convince you your instincts are wrong just because you can't prove them yet. And most importantly, leave with your dignity intact. Melissa will keep playing her games. Trey will probably get burned next, or maybe he already has. That's not my burden anymore. That storm has moved on, and I'm not chasing it. As for me, I've started running again, fixing up the house. I even took a solo trip, something I hadn't done since college. Just me, the road, no timeline. No one waiting to call at 10 p.m. to check where I was and why my answer sounded suspiciously calm. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't kick the door in with a marching band. It shows up quietly, with a soft breath and the realization that you don't owe anyone silence anymore. So here I am, 41, single, rebuilding, but whole. And if you're reading this because you suspect your partner is lying to you, here's your sign. Check the fan. Check the story. And when it breaks, let it. You might be surprised how bright life is without all the shadows you were trying to ignore. Jake.